The 1960s saw one of the biggest financial cover ups of the 20th century, yet I bet most people have never heard of it. It involves gold, central banks, and covert market manipulation. It's the London Gold Pool. Brown's Bottom is the most famous UK gold sale in history when Gordon Brown sold off 395 metric tonnes at the market bottom. But in the 1960s, the UK actually sold off 1,180 tonnes as part of the London Gold Pool. What was it? The London Gold Pool was a consortium of central banks which secretly intervened in the gold market between 1961 and 1968 to maintain a peg between the dollar and gold at $35 per ounce. The gold pool was formed in 1961 in response to the gold price going up to 40 US dollars in the previous year. It was called a gold pool because each of the 8 central banks committed some of their gold reserves each year into a pool, which was then actively managed by the Bank of England in the London gold market. But why did they do this? Well, for 2 reasons. The US didn't want the gold price to rise because it would undermine the monetary system that was being used at the time. And the second reason was because it would reward the Soviet Union and also countries like South Africa, which had a vast natural resources of gold. The London Gold Pool was an agreement between 8 central banks to collectively intervene in the gold market and maintain a price of $35 per ounce. The total pooled was around 240 metric tonnes of gold per year, with each country contributing the following percentages. The US contributed 50% of the pool, which was around 120 metric tonnes. The UK 11%, West Germany 11%, France 9%, Italy 9%, Belgium 4%, the Netherlands 4%, and Switzerland with just 2%. The United States provided the largest share because it had the largest gold reserves. How much did the UK sell? A 7-year period of contributing 24.4 tonnes of gold, which was their quota, would only see a total sale of 184.8 tonnes being sold. Yet records show Great Britain held 214 tonnes of gold in 1961, but only 1,309 tonnes after the London Gold Pool had dissolved in 1968, which came to a loss of 1,180 tonnes, some 52.6% of the total reserves. Either the UK was contributing more than the quota suggests, or it was selling independently from the London Gold Pool, or perhaps a mixture of both. Here's what's interesting about the London Gold Pool. The consortium of central banks was actually operating for 7 years before the public knew anything about their operations. The reason why they wanted to conceal it was to maintain trust in the gold standard and also prevent speculative attacks against the price of gold or the value of the US dollar. The pool was never formally disclosed to the public, and all participants had to be strictly confidential on their involvement. The pool secretly intervened in the gold market to suppress the price whenever demand for gold rose. The London Gold Pool operations was leaked to the public in November of 1967 by the New York Times, which was after France had already left the programme. It was likely that the leak was from the French source. In 1967, France withdrew completely from the London Gold Pool. The President Charles de Gaulle was very critical of the US dollar being reserve currency, and he wanted to exchange as many dollars as he could for gold.
Le fait que beaucoup d'États acceptent par principe des dollars au même titre que de l'or pour les règlements des différences qui existent à leur profit dans la balance des paiements américaine, ce fait entraîne les Américains à s'endetter et à s'endetter gratuitement vis-à-vis de l'étranger, car ce qu'ils lui doivent, ils le lui payent, tout au moins en partie, avec des dollars qu'il ne tient qu'à eux d'émettre. Étant donné les conséquences que pourrait avoir une crise qui surviendrait dans un pareil domaine, nous pensons qu'il faut prendre à temps moyen de l'éviter, nous estimons nécessaire que les échanges internationaux soient établis, comme c'était le cas avant les grands malheurs du monde, sur une base monétaire indiscutable et qui ne porte la marque d'aucun pays en particulier. Quelle base? En vérité, on ne voit pas qu'il puisse y avoir réellement de critères, d'étalons autres que l'or.
When France left, the US just absorbed their share of the pool. So now the US was providing 60% of the gold into this pool. The London gold pool completely collapsed in March of 1968. But why did they give it up after all those years of defending the US dollar's value against gold? The first domino to fall was the French withdrawal, which in itself wasn't really that much of an issue because they only contributed 9% of the pool's gold directly. The wider issue was Charles de Gaulle was publicly criticizing US dollar's reserve currency status, and he wanted to swap as many of these US dollars for gold itself. And what this done was it was drawing down reserves of the pool. The public could see this, and this was seen as an erosion of confidence in the system. And as with most things in history, us British had a big part to play as well. The Labour Party in 1968 devalued pound sterling against the US dollar by 14%. The problem that this had was speculators began to think that the US dollar would soon have to devalue and then push up the price of gold measured in dollars. And March 1968 was when the London gold pool officially stepped back from the market and stopped managing the price of gold. The US government under President Nixon eventually closed the gold window in 1971, completely severing the link between gold and the US dollar. This video only skims over the surface of the London gold pool story. If you want to know the full details, then click on the link in the description. It will take you to our research where you'll be able to see everything you would ever want to know about the London gold pool.